Do you think you know the history and culture that was used as inspiration for the country of Battahl in Dragon's Dogma 2? This beautiful country of clay is an integral part of the story, and care was put into making the land distinct, pulling said inspiration from the likes of ancient Egypt, Persia, and the Middle East. You'll find many fascinating things can be learned if you study the things you see around you in Battahl. And today I've gathered 10 of my favorite things I've noticed. Many of these were really interesting to read about and learn, and I hope you feel the same as we talk about the inspirations of Battahl. I did a video similar to this on Vermont as well. I think it's one of my best videos, and I would really appreciate you checking that video out as well. In that video, I used a rating system to gauge how accurate it is, and I'm going to be doing that again. Also, there is no order to what I'll be talking about, but I'm saving my personal favorite for the end. I thought it was really interesting and makes a lot of sense gameplay wise. So let's hop in. Get it? Because I'm a frog. Starting off with the most mundane of things, but it's a delicious little naan. You can see this fellow here baking it. Going to have to knock some points though, as they don't use an accurate furnace to bake it. They just reused a game model found elsewhere. Here's what it is normally baked in. Ironically, there may be an oven that is meant for it, but I'm no expert, so it's just a guess. But anyways, this little morsel is a staple of Middle Eastern and South Asia. The bread is a flat disc shape and is very soft and fluffy. The taste has been likened to sourdough bread. This depiction earns 4 giant rats out of 5. A small detail you can find in some of the dwellings around the city would be these hanging decorations. But they serve more of a purpose than just looking nice. Although that is just another major reason they're hung about. These are garlands, and are still used and created to this day. Pretty similarly as well. They can keep an area smelling nice, and during times when showers and running water didn't exist, you can imagine how this was quite helpful. This depiction earns 5 shitty YouTubers out of 5. Everyone is familiar with the famous Egyptian hieroglyphs, so no long explanation needed. But you may not know exactly what they do. Well, in short, they are ways these ancient people recorded their history, told stories, decorated, and expressed ideas among other things. So this is a pretty accurate depiction of Battahl. As you can see, images depicting an arisen and pawns. The arisen may or may not be Rothias, it's hard to tell. This depiction deserves 4 grapes out of 5. Imports and exports are a cornerstone of all economies, and the items that Battahl deals with are a good depiction of some of the major exports of the civilizations it's based on. Firstly, we have the rugs you can see scattered throughout the city. These are most likely Persian or Turkish inspired designs. You can also find a loom in a couple of spots, which is how these rugs are created. And secondly, we have the dye reserves. Clothing dyes weren't created by Egyptians, but they are some of the earliest known users of dye. One of the oldest in particular was a color known as Egyptian blue. These imports make a lot of sense for the culture of Battahl and earns this segment 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 what? 3 lollipops out of 5. Bazaars are what marketplaces for vendors to sell and trade goods in Middle Eastern and South Asian countries are called. They are usually sprawling and have a large selection of goods. I can tell that this is what the inspiration for the shopping area in Battahl was. However, it is really lacking in variety and overall amount of vendors. Obviously this is for gameplay reasons, but it is a bit disappointing nonetheless. Besides the 3 main vendors for weapons, armors, and consumables, there are a few side vendors for things like dried fruit and meat, as well as a seller of flowers. These are nice touches, but they won't save this section from earning a measly 2 steamy patrons out of 5. The Batali Shel is a curved blade that resembles a scimitar. But actually this sword is a near perfect match to the Egyptian sword known as khopesh. The sword is so sick looking, and is actually the reason I started compiling a list of Battahl inspirations. I wanted to include this in my weapons facts, but I had to keep it for this video. What do you think of this sword now that you know about the khopesh? I actually want to use the sword even more now for some reason. 5 angry dwarves out of 5. Great representation of this real life blade. Irrigation is next up, and I can already say that Battahl does a pretty good job with this. Egypt is credited with being one of the oldest civilizations to use irrigation for crops. This farming technique can be summed up as having channels of water that are redirected from another source of water. This helps in dry areas like deserts or places that just don't get rainfall very often. Battahl is certainly a place where this would be helpful, and since it's also based on Egypt, this is a great adaptation for their inspiration. 5 t-shirts out of 5. Wait, t-shirts? Oh yeah, my t-shirts. I actually have t-shirts for sale, link in the video description. These shirts are all designed by me and are a good way to support the channel, and you actually get something out of it. They're all frog shirts though, so if you love frogs like I do, then I hope you like them. If not, then oh well. None of the designs are clearly channel related, because I honestly don't like when YouTuber merch is basically just a billboard for their channel. Anyways, thank you for listening to my mini ad. Let's continue with the video. Now for something newly added to Dragon's Dogma 2 that is directly tied to Battahl. The Trickster vocation uses an incense holder for the main weapon, known as a censer. Incense holders are ventilated containers for burning, well, incense, which are usually organic material that is to be burned for aromatic effects, aka they smell good. Like most things on this list, incense can be traced back to Egypt, where they were used for ceremonies, warding off bad spirits, or just smelling good. Making sense as well, since you only unlock the vocation after entering Battahl. 4 simulacrums out of 5. The clothing of Battahl is a simple yet often overlooked aspect of desert living. Just like the people of the past and today, clothing of arid and hot locations is designed to be baggy and breathable, to allow heat to easily leave the body and clothes. Not much more to say besides that, just some comfy clothes that help in the heat. 5 overpriced weapons out of 5. Now onto my favorite item on the list, the Pulley Systems. The origins of the Pulley Systems seem to be Egypt. Everything I find online is saying Archimedes invented the pulley system, but only after traveling to Egypt. So I can only assume ancient Egypt had knowledge of the pulley system before he traveled there, and Archimedes just improved upon them. Similar to how Thomas Edison improved the light bulb, but is often credited with the invention. But back to the subject. This would make the freight carriers in Battahl all the more fitting. Now I don't believe this could have been created in ancient Egypt, but who's to say what they were truly capable of. Nonetheless, this is a very cool attention to detail, as there isn't any such pulley system in Vermont. So this section gets a whopping 10 annoying ass enemies out of 5. Well, that was a real hoot. What great attention and care was put into the region of Battahl. It really just goes to show how much the developers looked into when creating it. Really makes you wonder just how many things go right over our heads because we just have no idea it's a reference to something else, or has real world inspiration. I actually would have never guessed the pulley systems fit this well into the world. Did anything surprise you? Or did you know all these? You'd actually be a genius if you did. Let me know in the comments, and then I'm gonna give you a great, big...
Bye-bye.